All right, everybody, welcome back to the best hour of their day. Fern here. This is a unique show because I have three guests on here, and this is actually a really cool concept that I want to talk about. But first, let's get into who the guests are. So I've got Charlie Lima, Jeremy Thiel, and Spencer Nix. These are three different gym owners, and I want to talk a little bit about something that is unique that these guys do every single month that is very, very, very counter to what most gyms that I'm familiar with do, that live in and operate within the same space. So I know you guys are all busy, and I know I'm taking time out of this kind of gathering that you guys do monthly, so I don't want to eat up too much of your time. But you guys are at Jeremy's Gym, CrossFit Central downtown, and just kind of give us a little background before we get into all of what you guys are doing, but talk a little bit if you guys want to go through one at a time and give a little bit about who you are, what's your gym, and just kind of talk about a little bit about yourself here for a second.
For sure. So Jeremy here, just, we started this December was 14 years. 2019 was 14 years. We've been a CrossFit box. And, we were one of the first 60 gyms in the world. And really we're pioneers in the space of garage gyms and how to do this thing from the ground up. And my sister and I, Carrie Kepler, have been pursuing this as we've gone from, pioneers to CrossFit Games athletes to, training mom and pops, outdoor boot camps, to now really thinking about life longevity, health and wellness for the long term. And we love training. We love functional fitness. We love seeing people thrive. And so, that's where we are at today.
Very cool.
And I'm
Charlie. You can go, Charlie.
College Station CrossFit. Started as a personal trainer in 2003, just as a junior in college, and then started kind of owning my own business in 2005, affiliated with CrossFit in 2008. Spencer invited me to the level 1, so I had no idea what CrossFit was, but he said he was going to a certification, and I don't even think I knew what the word was, but I showed up my level 1 and fell in love with it. Came back, actually did CrossFit in a guy's garage for about 3 months who had a true garage affiliate in College Station, and then affiliated in August of 2008. We were the 400th affiliate at the time. And really just have continued we still do a lot of private training. That's kind of our, what we were at the very inception. And then 2008 really introduced this new way. We did boot camps at the time, so it was a natural shift to offer CrossFit. And now we do CrossFit, private training, and nutrition coaching.
Okay, cool. Spence, you're up, bro.
Spencer Nix, CrossFit Dallas Central, or CFDC for short. Like Charlie said, we affiliated, I guess, practically at the same time. So we'll celebrate 12 years in April. And I actually worked, what Charlie left out is I actually worked for him as a personal trainer, and then did some other strength and conditioning work in Houston, and then found CrossFit. And my brother and I opened the gym back in 2008. We were doing it in our garage as well. And fast forward to today, and here we are.
Cool. So I was just doing the math on that. So there's collectively almost 50 years of affiliate ownership on this podcast currently. So not to put any pressure on you guys, but we better drop some fucking knowledge bombs here.
Have figured out. If you had recorded our conversation 2 hours ago, you'd know that.
No, but the good part about that is that's the cool part is, nobody's got it totally figured out. It morphs over time. And that kind of leads me to the topic of this specific podcast, which is you guys are doing something in my mind unique, which is, and you can kind of clarify this, but you guys get together every month. And in my understanding, it's a full day where you guys sit down and you guys basically just wrap business. Is that correct?
It's every 3 months.
Oh, okay. Got it. Every 3 months.
And what we added last month was a monthly, like on the off months, like a phone call.
Okay.
We all have kids and gyms, and, so every 3 months is about the cycle that works well for our schedules.
And then roughly geographically, how far apart are your gyms, just for context?
Spencer's like
About
180 miles.
About
right?
3 hours from
Yeah.
from each.
And mine's about 2 hours to Austin, 3 hours to Dallas, and Jeremy's about 2 hours to College Station, 2 hours to Dallas.
Got it. Okay. I thought they were a little bit closer, but that's good to know. Just for people that, because you can do the same thing with people in your kind of like in air quotes competing market, and it actually doesn't matter. I know a lot of people that have done that in the past, but so how did this come up? Like, how did the conversation start? We're just like, hey, we should get together because this will be beneficial to all of us instead of. The reason I ask is there's a lot of people who, for lack of better terms, they're like in a scarcity mindset. Like, if I meet with this person, they're going to steal all my shit and put me out of business.
So we've known each other, all of us, for a long time. And, you especially, for really the earlier years of CrossFit, you would see people at a lot more of the events. And it was around the 2018 CrossFit Games. I had already kind of planted the seed, and I think Spencer, and he said, I want to do it. And then I saw Jeremy. We were at the games, and I was like, Spencer's in. Jeremy's like, all right, let's do it. And so we gathered the first time in September of 18 at my gym in College Station. And I would say this kind of really came from the only comparison that I could give it is I do a men's group at my gym with 5 other guys on Friday mornings. And that actually birthed from a small group that I do at my house with my wife, with other couples as of 10 years ago. And really my wife and I's marriage has been incredibly impacted by gathering with other couples twice a month. And we'll read books on marriage, and it's amazing what happens when you get around people that are like-minded, similar values. And so I've always respected these two guys tremendously in what they do and how they do it. And kind of like you said, selfishly, the podcast is for you. Like, I remember thinking, man, it'd be so cool to have what I have on Friday morning with, guys, but that's a different reason that we come together, but specifically to the gym space. Because as anybody listening to this podcast knows, you don't really have anybody who fully understands not just what you've done, but what you do and everything that it entails. And so having a couple guys who I know are doing it at a very high level and doing it very well, that we can do something like this. So the first day we got together in College Station, it proved itself very valuable that day, and we've done it since.
Do you guys have like a template that you kind of go by, or do you wing it when you guys sit down, or is there like, hey, we want to cover these topics, or is it more like a hot seat where, like arbitrarily Spencer would sit down and be like, I got a problem, and then you guys pepper him with questions, like, you suck, and then we come up with solutions together? Or how do you guys do it?
It's just coming together with some guys. There's really no outline. We've had a couple times that we've thrown some texts around ahead of time, but it really is just more about what is somebody carrying at that time. Like Spencer just bought a building, so that's a conversation right now that we're having. And, but it's not like news flash. Like, we've been talking about this for a while now. It actually birthed in a previous time we got together. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that, Spencer, because that's something that probably like in the last 6 months to a year has like moved to the forefront of my brain. It's just like, hey, long-term, like owning property is probably one of the biggest ways to bulletproof your business. So how did that start to happen? And then you don't have to talk about numbers or anything like that, but like the process of that conversation, how did it initiate? And then how did it unfold to the point where like, okay, now you own that real estate and it's yours?
Well, I can tell you that it wouldn't have happened without this gathering. Charlie owns his building, so obviously that's a huge confidence booster, and there's several conversations there. But Jeremy has a perspective because he's been doing it so long that I think like stepping into owning a building is just it's a nerve-wracking thing. And so just have a sounding board with both of these guys to talk through how we would finance it. each one provided just as much value as the other, and how to make a transition happen from one location to the other, which Jeremy has experience with, how to set up another LLC, Charlie has experience with. So I think just the confidence was probably the most important thing. And then because, like you said, it is such a long process, to take it like one step at a time and to have them ask me questions, because I knew when I showed up that I needed to be prepared with what the monthly note would be, and hey, how are you going to provide a down payment? And so, yeah, long story short, I think if I were to have done that in isolation, I don't know if I would have had the confidence or just the structure to break it down in a way where I would accept like that risk and step into that role.
The other thing that I think is interesting, which I'm sure you guys have full realization of at this point, is most people don't realize how many resources they have in their own affiliate, like their member base, just people that they can talk to. But now what you guys have done, and I would imagine you've done this, is now basically you have access to resources within 3 affiliates. Because, you know, if Spencer's talking to Charlie, he's like, oh, I've got a guy who can walk you through that because his specialty is commercial real estate and he understands the financing game and the 3 different routes that you could do that. So have you guys run into that situation where you're like handing off like internal resources to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Spencer, the thing that comes to mind is a consultation script that he does, an assessment with new intros. And I remember when he shared that Google Doc with me, it was like eye-opening, you know, because what I had been doing was basically just going in and having a conversation with the person and winging it. And I was like, man, this is really well structured. And I remembered like feeling in the first time I did it, like the next question just felt right. You know, it was like, and I'd write things down, and it just, so absolutely. Jeremy shared some of his operations and systems as well.
So on that note, and Jeremy, you can kind of talk about, because you've owned an affiliate for 14 years, which is way longer than most. I would imagine even though you guys are sharing tactics, strategy, and all that stuff, your business still probably look very different. Is that accurate?
I would say that probably Spencer and mine looks more similar. We're both in big metropolitan areas, and then we kind of bounce similar ideas off each other, kind of how we hold things. Charlie started out from a private training, had the CrossFit. He's expanded his gym like by thousands of square feet, and so his has shifted and changed. And so I say we all do operate different. But there's a lot of similarities as well. But like today, Charlie's unloading a bunch of his systems that he's put in place for accountability. And I'm like ready to shift in certain practices in the way that he's going. And so we're always learning and evaluating from one another. Yeah.
I think it's important, and you guys have found a core little group, and it's probably more beneficial that you know each other, but that I think it's cool because you guys are friends. You probably don't let each other get away with shit. Where like if we were acquaintances, it'd be like, oh, well, I'm not necessarily going to call them on that. But since you guys are friends and have known each other for basically a decade, you're like, that's a trash idea. You should not do that.
I think, well, one time we were at a mastermind in College Station, and I called Spencer out on something. I think he had to like hold it in from punching me in the face.
The thing part is there's a lot of humility, man. Even though there's a lot of ego in this circle, trust me, there's a lot of humility, and I think it's respect for the other person, as opposed to somebody who we don't know or somebody who doesn't know coming and saying something. There's so much established rapport, relationship, respect, that there's natural humility, and we're all here to learn from each other.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you guys are going open-minded, because that's so I'll give you my experience. So I tried to do this several years ago, and I just probably pulled in way too many people to try to do it, and then probably do it at probably too high of a frequency. So we were trying to do it like once a month, and it was like, come if you can. And the first 3 months, it probably went well. And then after that, we basically, whoever's gym we would show up to was just not prepared, and it was a gigantic waste of time. And it was basically like us trying to like walk through the things that they wanted to share because they hadn't done any work on the forefront. And then it kind of whittled away probably at about the 10-month mark. And then, then I was looking outside the gym, for different consulting and stuff like that. But I'm always constantly searching for that same environment, which is like, hey, who's doing this really well? Like, who's forward thinking, who is ambitious naturally, and who's looking to improve, like, and has no, and what you said, which is has that humility and has no ego and is able to say, listen, I blew it. Don't do this because I like really dropped the ball on this, but maybe consider doing it this way, and not being married to any ideas, and with the understanding that like if I give somebody information, it's not negative to me. And I think a lot of people feel that way, where a lot of people look at that and they're like, well, if I give him all my secrets, which by the way, everybody, they're not secrets. Nobody's got the secrets, right? So if you're afraid that like somebody's going to steal your stuff, that's ridiculous. So stop doing that. But I think it's important what you guys have there. And what would you say, you might guys all might each have a different take on this. What's like if you have one of the biggest tangible things that have come from this relationship that you guys have developed in this process? I mean, Spencer, we probably talked about yours. It's probably like buying the building, I would imagine.
I changed the structure of how I pay our coaches. That led to a number of different changes that had to respond to that. I'm now the sole owner of our business, which means like I went through a buyout process, like tremendous amount of change for me personally.
For me, there's a lot of things that come to mind, but the thing that probably is tangibly, so Jeremy has been putting on a major event for over a decade. I have been putting on a smaller event for a decade. And last year, largely due to this group, we met in April in College Station. My event was in August or September. I put on the biggest version of that event ever, and Rich Froning came because of a contact that Jeremy connected with me with, and that's now he's coming back this year, and it was all from this group.
What's the event? Pitch it, man.
It's called BCS Classic in College Station, and it's August 22nd.
And is it a throwdown? What is it?
Yeah, it's partner competition, male, female, male. We have masters 40 and up. And
tell them who's programming for it.
And Rich Froning's program.
Never heard of him?
So it's probably okay. Probably testing people's fitness. Do you have a division for very moderately fit middle-aged men, like right around 39?
Hey, if you and Ackerman want to come down and test your fitness, I'll come.
I might take you up on that, dude. Although I'm gonna have to carry that little Jewish guy around for the whole competition because he's not that fit. But
I'll just have his comments throughout the workouts.
That would be funny, actually. When is it? August 22nd?
2nd in College Station.
We might make that a date, bro. I'm not even kidding you. I'm writing it down right now. Okay. Cool. I'm curious about this question because, Charlie, you are kind of the outlier with regard to how your business started, and you started in the PT world. Has some of that knowledge bled over to the other two gyms? For instance, like I know people are always trying to add PT revenue to their gyms. I'm just curious if both Jeremy and Spence, if you guys have picked up some things in order to maybe have an uptick in PT, or you just decided like that doesn't fit in our model.
We've always had like a PT version of kind of what we offer, what our coaches do on the floor. But I would say that it's mainly, I guess, philosophical like processes of operating and running the business and the systems within the CrossFit side. I don't know what you would say.
Yeah, I'm always, and even I wish you could see Charlie's setup because it's just really cool how the two worlds interact with each other. So that's definitely like influenced us. And like I said, that's where I started. So having a background in, and I think what Charlie excels at is interpersonal communication. And I think that's individual touch points are needed in group classes and that structure more and more. And so looking at the way that he has those high touch services within like the one-on-one training and trying to figure out like how we can like merge those two worlds together. He's definitely been a role model there.
I think that's something probably the vast majority of CrossFit gyms, unless I got motion sensors in my office. That's something that most gyms really struggle with unless they started with that model, right? So they try to go from this group model. What the hell, it's not working. This group model, and then try to add personal training to it, and then it doesn't work. Charlie, throw some knowledge here, man. Like, what are some of the core tenets of good personal training that most CrossFit coaches, box owners, whoever, fundamentally misunderstand or don't even know about?
It's a completely different customer than the one that you're getting in the door. Therefore, it's really hard for you to try to do it because your CrossFit members are not personal training customers. And really most gyms are set up to attract group members. It's no different than Orange Theory trying to do personal training. It's like, they don't get it. That's not their model. And so, Orange Theory, who is doing group at a very high level, understands that personal training is not their model. And so how is a CrossFit gym owner who has very little understanding of business practices when they start going to understand how to do personal training if somebody who's doing it at the highest level doesn't? So just understanding that like the customer that you're getting in the door for CrossFit is not the one that you need to be marketing to, selling to, and your environment really doesn't sell to that customer either. Like you're talking about warehouse space, rubber stall mats, or, like no air conditioning. That's not what personal training is. And so for me, I was a personal trainer for 5 years before I was ever a CrossFit coach. And, I worked at a studio as a personal trainer. I worked in a gym as a personal trainer. And so when I started my personal training studio in 2005, I wanted it to be an environment that was conducive to that customer because I didn't know the other customer.
Got it. Jeremy, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about you guys were talking about some of the accountability stuff that Charlie's putting in. If you can, and if you don't want to, don't elaborate. But like, is that for you personally as a business owner? Is that stuff he's putting in with regard to clients? And you guys can both chime in here if you want to.
I didn't get the question. Can you repeat it?
So Jeremy had mentioned something about he was looking at some things with regard to like some accountability processes that you had put in, Charlie. And I was curious as to what those were and who they were for. Is it for the customer? Is it for the coach? Is it for the business owner?
It's for client management, lead management, servicing our clients over a timeline that's going to allow them to get the results and the success that they're going to get, and making sure that it's systemized and duplicatable. And so I think that, we all kind of get super jacked about when we get a new client in and we might take care of them on a few, body assessments or nutrition. And then 3 weeks go, 6 weeks go, and then it's just left to the survival of the fittest to a degree. We have accountability metrics in, but are the coaches or staff following through with them? Probably more than likely not. And so he's putting in some foolproof ways to make sure that we're following up on a systematic timeline. And he's implemented some, client lead nurturing individuals to follow through where coaches might not have the strengths to do that. And we're asking the coaches to not only coach the snatch, but also follow up, communicate, build relationship, and make sure they get their body metrics, what might not be their best skill set. And so it's kind of like taking some of that off the coach's plate and realizing and recognizing that that's not going to be their best skill. And so it's just going like, okay, maybe I'm just expecting too much.
So, I mean, that's a problem that a lot of gym owners deal with. And so if you don't mind me asking, like, what are some of the potential solutions there? Are you bringing in an additional team member who is not on the floor, who like that's their sole skill set, is kind of like some people call them like a customer success person or joy girl guy, whatever. But like, what have you guys come to the conclusion, like this is best practice?
Yeah, so we have customer service rep at our gym, but our customer service rep is always frustrated because the coaches are supposed to be doing their job servicing their customers, and then she's doing front of their work, and it's not clearly defined. So that's where I'm listening to Charlie, and he can tell you what he's doing and saying, okay, let me just say this is not my coach's job, and it is my customer service rep's job, and this is how you're going to handle it. Charlie has a different name for it, but I think it allows for it to be a realistic execution and accountability play.
So educate me, Charlie, because truth be told, like that's something that's been rattling around in my brain that I need to solve here, like probably in the next couple of months, to be very frank with you.
Oh yeah, no, I have a great lady who's been a member of our gym for a long time. She's amazing. She's actually been a personal training client first from like 2009 to 2000, I think maybe 14, and then she shifted to CrossFit, became a member, and then I put a little post for front desk, and she actually said, kind of like whispering to me, because she's I mean, by no means is she an older woman, but she's got grown kids, and she's like, I'm not looking for a job, but I think this would be kind of fun. All that to say is I morphed her into what's a customer success manager, which is kind of what you're describing. He does 10 hours a week. And it's specifically what I'm going to call is the point of contact for the members, which is really good for billing and any kind of membership services. Also, posts every Friday, like something in the gym, on the gym's page, the secret page, private page for the community, bright spots, and then also sends a weekly email out. But then every new customer, everybody that signs up, she's got a checklist. And it's basically a follow-up process for the first 90 days of their experience, from sending a welcome package to a welcome email to texting them and asking them how their experience is going. So, and she's really, really good at that. She also helps with like supplies at the gym and cleanliness. And it's not a very like 10 hours a week tops. So it's not even that it needs to, but when you take a coach who's coaching 20 hours a week of private training,
yeah,
12 hours a week of classes, and then you start asking them to do that, and 10, 5 more hours of that type of work is not what they want to be doing. And then I have another position that's a lead nurturer that all she really focuses on is the leads. So she's just the people that are opting in through website, through our ads, through the landing pages, just contacting them and booking the consultations with me.
But you do the consultations. She doesn't do them. Okay. So, and what I think is important there is that metric of about 10 hours. Because I think most people assume this is a 40-hour work week. And any gym owner who's ever done this is like, that's 40 hours. Like that is no possible way is that 40 hours. So what I think most people miss about this is it's far more viable from a standpoint of payroll than most people actually think it is. Like it's not costing you $50K a year to have this person do this.
I think, Fern, the key, man, is you got to define the role. You have to create their roles and tasks, and also their job description, along with define the key result areas, and then actually put together an evaluation. And so all these positions, I meet with them weekly, right? Because there's an accountability point to that. And that's the stuff that, I can tell you for a long time I never wanted to do.
No, agreed, because it can be exhausting. Like you said, when you're doing everything else, it becomes the second or third thing, which means it becomes the thing I don't actually do. And everybody, because it is their third, fourth, fifth obligation, does a really shitty job of it. And arguably, we could all agree, again, 50 years here, it might be the most important, if not one of the most important functions within the gym, because retention in the fitness world is a thing.
That's right.
The other thing, so give me, each of you, I would like you to guys to give some, what's the best practices for making this work, right? Like, so clearly you guys have been doing this for 2 years, or like roughly 2 years, and it's going well. Like, each of you guys, have over 10 years of experience in the affiliate game. You're all clearly doing well. 2 of you own the buildings that you operate. Jeremy, do you own yours or no? Okay. 2 of you own those buildings, so it's clearly working. Like, how have you guys built this so that it works? Is it, so let's say somebody wants to do this and they're not good friends. What would you recommend?
That might be hard.
I thought you were going to say that, to be honest with you. Yeah, I thought you were going to say that.
I think they're like, none of us are the one that I would call like the leader, right? Like, so there's just mutual value that we add that doesn't trump the other, right? So there's not one person every time like doing all the talking, right? But so I think just having other gym owners that are probably, we'll call it in a similar knowledge base, experience base, membership base might be a good idea. Another thing I would say is, like, one thing we do now is, like, at the end of today, we'll book our next one. So, like, we'll put it on the calendar, schedule it out, and have it looking forward to it in the next 3 months,
What would you guys recommend? Let's say you're in, and I think I know the answer, but let's say I don't have that access, which I probably not actually a real thing, but let's say you can't find the other person, or what I think is actually probably more realistic is that I've got this group of people, and let's say we're all struggling. Like, so let's say we're all kind of like more the prototypical box that is breaking even, but we all want to do well. We just don't know what to do. We can't afford to purchase services from a consulting business and all that stuff. But basically, for lack of better terms, like, the group that we've compiled is the blind leading the blind. Is it still valuable?
Jeremy's shaking his head no.
Yeah, absolutely not. The number one thing that is determining it. Are you a professional box owner, and are you doing this for a full-time, business? And then that's a decision I've found over time with people that they have to make in their head, and then they have to figure out what type of income they need to make for that to be a realistic, career for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to go into massive action in pursuing the information that they need to run and operate a successful business. And so I think you have to put your business cap on and determine that. And that's number one. And as you start to pursue that, mentors are widely available. Like you said, the resources of other business owners, because what we're learning in 2020 is that this is a business. It's not a hobby. And so once people start to operate as a business, then other business owners are attracted to that. And then you can start masterminding with other business owners, because the X and O's of like programming, coaching, training, you can get those tactical skills from certifications, learn how to do that and operate it. Now we're really talking about business ownership and leadership. If you can't lead people, you can't be a box owner. If you can't lead your clients, you can't be a coach. So our centers are leadership development centers. And so once you start to understand that you're creating leaders and you're developing, then you're now moving towards a profitable business that now you can hire coaches. So it's this systematic process of decisions and seeking knowledge and wisdom in that sense. And so that's just my recommendation out of the gate. But we're talking about this like a mentality. There's certain switches that we have to flip to go to work. If we're going to build leads and get customers, you got to flip the switch and you got to attract them. You got to be intentional. So whenever you're just kind of like floating around, you don't know, it's telling me that you haven't decided that you're a business. And that's the fundamentals. And then from there, everything changes. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I mean, I think the candid nature of that is important, because I think there's a lot of people who do this, like, let's get together. And it's like, no, it needs to be the right people sitting at the table. It just can't be, this, a group circle jerk where it's just like, hey, we're all just going to go throw bad ideas at the wall and tell each other that it's great. Like that's not valuable. Like you're actually going to go backwards in that scenario. So like anytime I do it, like I've got this kind of like running joke with a couple other gym owners, which is like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like, don't be that person. Like you should be like, I prefer to be in a room where I feel like an idiot, like most of the time, because I am an idiot, but if I happen to be the smartest person, I'm like, this is not where I should be. Like if I'm the only person with good ideas and like pushing back on things and all that stuff, I'm like, this is not the group that I want to be associated with. So I want people who are going to challenge my ideas and tell me that they think it's wrong, and then provide different solutions, and then say, hey, you should try it this way, or you need to change your thinking entirely. Like you're looking at that through the wrong end of the binoculars. Like you're completely jacked up. So I think it's important to like have that conversation and just say, listen, no, like, and it's okay to say no to people, more importantly, who are like, let's get together, and be like, no, like you don't probably like cut the mustard for like who I want to be associated with. And that's not a bad thing, right? But it's like, think of it from sports or fitness, right? Like nobody's training down or who's trying to win the CrossFit Games. You know what I mean? Like you're not like, hey, who's the weakest training partner I can find? Like that's not how they're approaching it. So
yeah, I just kind of going back and reiterating, I'm saying it's like getting with other CrossFit box owners probably isn't the answer, because I know Charlie and Spencer have business mentors, and they are getting mentored by other people in the space that aren't box owners, and so they're getting resources that are in the marketplace. The marketplace has laws and operational procedures and execution that are so important. And one thing I want to talk about too is like we're also equally yoked spiritually. Like we're all spiritual men, and like we pursue spirituality in our lives and have mentors for our faith, and that also unifies us. So if you have people that are coming from obviously different walks of life, but they fundamentally don't even pursue a higher order of their like soul, if you will, then that might not be. So I mean, and I'm not saying like one or the other are saying this or that. I'm just saying you need to have unified, like you need to be on the same page in what you're coming together, because if you don't have the same like belief in the sense of why you're here and what you're doing, you're probably not even going to gel on the business side.
No, I think that's important. Again, it's like, hey, because the conversations are going to be, quite frankly, probably somewhat contentious in nature. Like you already talked about Spencer wanting to punch you, because they're going to be emotional, and because there are going to be some scenarios where they're going to be uncomfortable in nature, because you're going to have to expose your business and potentially where it's suffering and all that. Like you need to be aligned with those people. You need to be confident those people have your best interests in mind, and that they're there to help you grow, not necessarily there to just like pick on you, essentially.
I mean, I would just say like between the three of us in the last like 2 years and all of the trials and tribulations that we've gone through, from, Charlie's son going through life or death situations, Spencer buying out his partner, which is his brother, buying a box, like going through processes of all that, what that stress puts on his family relationship, what my business does. I've made big business transitions, maturing my business that have been painful. And it's like, if each of us weren't 100% transparent and vulnerable, we couldn't trust each other. But knowing somebody's going to go and share this in their neck of the woods, and like there's a certain level of trust that has to be there that makes this group legitimate. And so I think those are all very important.
Fern, I'll say this: the first day that we met, that was one of the things that we spoke about, because in that men's group, right, that I tell you we do Friday mornings, I tell these guys, do not walk in with your mask, because everybody's wearing a mask every day, right? Like the mask that makes you feel like you have it all figured out and like everything's okay, which is an okay mask to wear when you're coaching CrossFit, right? But like
Yes.
Not on Friday morning men's group, right? Like, so when I told these guys, I was like, guys, this is because it's actually more freeing to be able to say, hey guys, like things are not good, or this is not, it's like, I'm finally getting to share that with somebody who gets it. And so for us, that first day was powerful because it was immediately like, okay, this is for real. Like, this isn't going to be a come in and basically I'm just going to share all the things that I'm doing really well and make you guys feel like I've got it figured out. And no, this is going to be like raw and real every single time. And so it's like that first meeting sets the tone for the rest of them. And so I think transparency, like Jeremy brought up, is a very core ingredient to making this work. And also, I think you said something with the group that you tried was probably too big, and that probably is true. Like 3 people for us is really good. It just works well for us.
Well, I think the other big takeaway is that you guys, it doesn't have to be completely in the same locale, right? Like you guys are hours away from each other, so like for me, it was just like, maybe I should make a trip to Richmond. That's 2 hours away. Like not a big deal, So I think most people, their scope of who's available is like, well, I could drive to their house in 10 minutes. I'm like, well, if this is important, maybe you should drive your ass 3 hours. Like maybe you should take a full half-day trip to go somewhere to grow what it is that you're doing. So I think that stuff is important. But the big takeaway, I think, is that, and you guys have been there, like you guys have been doing this long enough, like you guys know this. There's too many CrossFit gyms who are trying to do this alone. I don't know how else to say that. Like there's just too many people who are trying to do it, reinvent the wheel, make all the same mistakes without having the humility to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been that guy. Like I'm still that guy right now in a lot of facets where like I had somebody who's like a buddy of mine, mentor. He was just like, hey, you need to let that idea go. He goes, that is an awful idea. It's not you. It hasn't, like, you're just chasing this thing because you think it's cool. And I was like, I appreciate that, dude. Like, yeah. And then he was very candid with me too. He's like, and mistakes you made in 2019, you need to let those go. If you're going to continue to beat yourself up on those, you're just going to live with them forever. Just let them go. Like people make mistakes. Like let it be a thing.
Let me add this to it. In this mastermind or quarterly gathering does not replace actually paying for some of those mentor groups, because all of us have actually paid for mentorship, business coaching, all those things, right? Like this is not it's not like you want to save money and not pay that service or that monthly whatever. No, it's like this just adds to it, right? This creates a really cool, and it's really cool because it's not paid. Like this is totally like, there's no expectations, like this is a very like, man, we're just grateful that we had time. He has 3 kids, he has 2, I have 4. We love our wives, we love our gyms, and we make time for this. And it's really freeing to come together and just encourage each other.
I would imagine it's very, it's a relief, number one, but it's also probably one of these things that falls into the category of like, this fills the cup, where like sometimes you might dread talking to a business mentor because they're just going to stick you in the meat grinder and hope you survive, come out the other end, where that can feel a little labored, where like if I'm getting together with people that I trust who are also going to stick me through the meat grinder, it's not as bad. I still feel refreshed on the other end of that, which I think is important. So I would agree with you. Like, I don't think these groups should completely replace those things. Like sometimes you need to pay somebody to tell you that you suck. Like that's a real thing. That's a real scenario. I wrote an article years ago. It's entitled "To Pay Somebody $25." I paid a guy $2,500 to tell me that I suck.
I think we spent the first 20 minutes of our day just speaking, talking to Spencer specifically about why his asset investment is going to be the best thing that he's ever done. And we were giving him example after example, because it's kind of like going like, I'm in this, and you start asking like, is this like what I should have done? And we were painting story after story after story, and Charlie was bringing his experience. I was talking about my father. I was talking about my landlord that comes here like smiling and getting his big check every month that just goes into his monthly expenses. Like, that's you in 40 years, bro. And so it was just like uplifting. So there's a lot of that support that we do. 25.
Well, I'm 104.
There you go. So Spencer, I need some money, bro. So since you're out of your building, I need you to give me some money.
I'm all out.
Well, listen, guys, this has been super fun. I think at the bare minimum, people are going to take a lot of ideas from this and probably be able to craft their own version of this, which is the whole point of this thing. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just kind of like you do it, you reinvent it, you evolve it, you move it forward, and you try to make it better. And then the other thing, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, it's probably not so much with you guys because there's a pre-existing friendship there, but this understanding that you will level up or outgrow certain mentors in certain groups, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think there's different types of relationships. When you talk about a mentor, there's an understanding that one person is receiving most of the value there and the other is giving it. And then there's interactions like this where we expect for each person to receive it and to give it. And so I think being clear on what the relationship looks like, and then if you know what the relationship looks like, then you understand what it is you're trying to get out of it. And in the mentor scenario that you talked about, I think having clear expectations of what you want to get out of that, and then when you've accomplished that goal, like, you should feel okay that that contract, so to speak, has been fulfilled.
Yeah, like I was working with the gym a couple months ago, and they're just like, I think we're good. And I'm like, then we're good. Like, don't keep giving me money if we're good. Like, it's fine. Like, that's the way it should be. If you're here forever, that's like having to go back to the doctor every week. I'm like, at some point, like, you're not making me any better, bro. Like, I shouldn't have to be here all the time. You know what I mean? And I think it's okay to have that conversation. Like, it's fine.
I would say this, not to completely contradict you, but I could.
It's cool if you can. We don't have to agree. It's okay.
Like my small group, the couples that meet in my living room twice a month, and we don't. I like that. I don't see kind of having this end date. There are couples that maybe for periods of time don't have the time. They have a newborn. The men's group on Friday, like, we see the value in that so much that, like, even one of the guys was like, hey guys, I just want you to know we're doing this forever. You know?
I mean, that's great.
And like, I could see this group that we're in right now, like, having this continue, right? Obviously, like, to the length that we're running a gym, but maybe, I mean, probably beyond. These friendships between these two guys and myself, they go beyond the gym. You know what I mean? Like,
Which is important.
Gym is the excuse. Now, when you're talking about like a two-brain mentorship, absolutely, right? Like, you go through the entry level, you maybe do the mentorship, and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, move on. You know what I mean? So I want to what I believe this is. And I think too, like, if you look at your mastermind that you're creating to be this thing that I'm going to get something from it and then move on when I've gotten everything from it, you're not going to ever create something as special as we have here.
Agreed. Yeah. I think we're on the same page. So should have been more clear. I was more referring to the more transactional mentor groups where, like, I'm paying for a service, you get it. And at some point, if it's a good service, I should have leveled up to something else at that point where you've given me the skill set that I was missing, and now I'm in search of a different or higher skill set from there. So no, I think we're aligned there. It's good. We can still be friends. It's fine, Charlie. We're good. Well, listen, guys, I know you guys are busy. I know you guys got a ton of stuff to do. Thank you for sharing this, dude. This is a big deal. It's cool to have, 3 affiliate owners of a decade or more to share that with people. And I honestly think people are going to take a lot of relief in this because they're going to realize that, like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to sit down and talk to other people and work things out. And it doesn't matter if they are another CrossFit gym or not. And it's okay to sit down with people who are not CrossFit gym owners. Like, they have a lot of good stuff to say as well.
It's like CrossFit. It's like CrossFit affiliate owner rehab.
Yeah. I think you should coin that, Jeremy. Go ahead and buy that URL right now.
I'm texting you the link to my event. If you and Jason are coming, let me know.
Do I get like a handicap for having him on my team?
We can
Like,
make.
I get the scores get adjusted because of his lack of fitness. No, cool. No, I'm serious, man. Like we will definitely look into coming down there. That's after the games, right?
Shortly after, and I'll be at the games if
Probably like 3 weeks after the games, I think. Okay, cool. Awesome, guys. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions for these guys, I mean, you can find them all on social media, but hit us up. If not, we'll hand you guys off. But Spencer, Charlie, Jeremy, I appreciate it. This was really cool. I learned a lot. This is good stuff, so thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day, and thanks again to our special guest. We appreciate all you guys do for us with Best Hour of Their Day when it comes to sharing our posts on Instagram, when it comes to subscribing to us on YouTube, when it comes to the constant feedback. We are grateful and we appreciate it. We are trying to build a community based on coaching development and becoming the best version of yourself. And it goes without saying that we couldn't do without all of you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Season 1 of Dropping In is out. We are getting tremendous feedback and we'd love for you to check it out. Leave us a comment on there. Head over to our Instagram. Give us a follow. Like our pictures. Feel free to share anything that resonates with you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback for us, please don't hesitate. Email us, besthouroftheirday@gmail.com. Thanks again. Until the next episode, we hope you've had the best hour of your day.